Welcome to the world of Motley Crue.
Ladies and gentlemen, from the studios in Lake Norman, North Carolina, this is a special music edition of the BENGEBUSTER Show. Hello everyone, and welcome to this special edition of the BENGEBUSTER Show, coming to you today from the studios here in Mooresville, North Carolina. Over the past few weeks, I've had some really cool guests on my show. We've shared some really cool, interesting wrestling stories. I've had some really cool guests that really taught everyone some really cool stuff. But I thought I'd change it up a little bit this week. You know, a lot of people have been asking me about, music and things like that. And of course, it's no secret that Motley Crue is my favorite band. So I thought I would kind of introduce everyone, let everyone know how I got turned on to Motley Crue and why they're like one of my favorite groups. Again, Motley Crue goes back to my roots of wrestling. It was probably somewhere around 1984 when I first heard Motley Crue. I was watching some wrestling on television, and in my opinion, the greatest valet of all time, Baby Doll, they were bringing her in, and they had like this little video vignette of her, coming in to meet Tully Blanchard. And as she's getting off the airplane there at the airport, they're playing this song in the background. And the song was Motley Crue's Looks That Kill. And I heard that song, I was like, man, that song sounds really cool. But I didn't think nothing else about it, A few weeks go by, I'm in elementary school when all this is going on, and one of my good friends, Jason, was in the talent show, and he was lip syncing this really cool heavy metal song, and the song was called Looks That Kill. So now I've heard this same song twice, and I'm like, man, this song sounds really cool. I got to find out who sings this. Well, I played baseball with Jason, so one day I'm like, dude, the song that you sing at the talent show? He goes, yeah. I said, what's the name of the song? He goes, the name of the song is called Looks That Kill by Motley Crue. I'm like, okay, I'm gonna try to find that song. And he goes, well, it's on the album called Shout at the Devil. And I'm like, oh, well, if anybody knows my parents, especially my mother, she was like hellfire and brimstone. So I knew if I brought an album in my parents' house with the name Devil on it, it was automatically going to be shot down, So I guess another year goes by. Now it's like 85. And one of my next door neighbors had a friend over, and we're all there playing basketball, shooting baskets and everything. And I had this G.I. Joe. And he comes up to me and goes, man, I like that G.I. Joe. Well, I had two of them, and he's like, somehow another week we got talking about music. And I said, yeah, I've been trying to get that album, Shout at the Devil. I said, but I can't buy it with my parents because they'd flip out. He goes, oh, I got the cassette tape in my mom's car. I'm like, no, you don't have that cassette tape. He goes, yeah, I do, man. And so, anyway, long story short, we end up trading. I traded him a G.I. Joe for this Shout at the Devil tape. And, of course, the only song I knew was Looks That Kill, so I take it and put it in my little jam box, and I'm playing Looks That Kill, and I'm excited because I've got this song that I've been trying to get for like a year now, right? Well, one day I'm thought, well, I'm going to check out some of these other songs on here, and I start listening to the other songs, and I'm like, man, this sounds so super cool. I really like this band. And from there, it just took off, my first Motley Crue album was Shout at the Devil. I loved every song on that tape. And then, at that time I wasn't really into, I was into music, but as far as knowing what bands were putting out albums and things like that, I didn't really know that then. And so I guess it was probably 87. I keep hearing the song Girls, Girls, Girls on the radio. And I'm like, who is this band, And, then I hear the radio DJ go, the Motley Crue. I'm like, wait a minute, I got a Motley Crue tape, Shout at the Devil, So then that's when I realized that, they have a new album, and every time Motley Crue put out a new album, they changed their gimmick, back to wrestling. They changed their gimmick, their image. And I thought that was really cool. So I go out and buy the Girls, Girls, Girls tape, and I'm like, he listened to the songs Wild Side and Girls, Girls, Girls and Dancing on Glass and You're All I Need. And I'm like, man, these are some good songs. And of course, back then you had to take the cassette tape and open it up and read the lyrics and stuff. And I remember hearing the song You're All I Need, and I'm like, man, that sounds like a really cool love song. Until I read the words, and I was like, oh man, that's heavy. And then I've heard Home Sweet Home, so I kind of skipped 85 and went to 87. But it seems like Motley Crue from 84 up until now has kind of like been the soundtrack to my life. And I remember meeting one of my high school buddies, Steve, and he was just as big a Motley Crue fan as he was a bigger Motley Crue fan than I was. Like, he literally knew everything about them. He knew their birthdays and who their wives were, and so I just kind of hung out with him and learned more Motley Crue stuff. And the more I learned, the more I loved them, and they become like my favorite band. And then I got a drum kit, and I'm starting to trying to learn to play the drums. And I remember I got this little beat up drum kit, and I had it in my bedroom, and I'm practicing. And of course, the first song I learned to play is Looks That Kill, right? And so I called my friend Steve. I'm like, dude, you need to come over here and check this out, because I'm still learning these drums, but see what you think. And he comes over and sits down and starts listening. I'm playing. He's like, have you had music lessons? I'm like, no, I just picked up these drums and just learning. He goes, dude, you sound just like Tommy Lee. So I'd sit there and I'd see Tommy Lee spin the drumstick, and I would practice and practice and practice, and I got it down pat, and then and it was so cool. And then so I guess 1990, it was actually March the 24th, 1990. Me and my friend Steve, his grandmother got us tickets, and we go to see Motley Crue at the Lawrence Joel Coliseum. That was my first concert, and it was Motley Crue and Faster Pussycat. And man, I was blown away. I was like, man, because we had pretty close seats, and I'm like, a 16-year-old kid just being thrown into the wolves, so to speak. And fans at Motley Crue shows can get really wild, if you know what I mean. And I was just like, wow. And I just loved them. And then I didn't see Motley Crue again live until probably, I think it was like 90, I won't say 97. Saw them on the Generation Swine tour, and it just so happens that's the same tour where they were in Greensboro, and Nikki and Tommy was arrested for inciting a riot because the security guard was like beating up the fans that was trying to get up on stage and everything. And Nikki literally stopped the show, told the people they wasn't playing no more songs because of the security guys are beating them up and everything. And then Tommy dumps a beer on the guy's head, and it just takes off from there. And I was like, wow, this is really cool. And then my next Motley Crue concert was in 2001. I saw him in Charlotte. By this time, though, they had broken up. Tommy wasn't with them anymore, and Samantha Maloney had came in to fill in for Randy Castillo, who was on drums, who was actually sick at the time. So that was a cool show. And then I guess after that, I didn't see Motley Crue live again until like 2005. That was on the Red, White, and Crue tour, and that was like the reunion tour where they had all four original members back together: Tommy, Nikki, Vince, and Mick. And what was cool was they had this tour and no opening act. So like their tour, or their theme of their tour, their gimmick, was like rock and roll circus. So they had literally had these circus performers doing all kind of cool stuff, and it was a really cool show. I really enjoyed it. And then the next time I saw Motley Crue after 2005 would have been 2008. That was on the first ever Crue Fest, and that was a really cool tour. They had 6 a.m., Trapped, Papa Roach, and Buck Cherry. That was a really, really cool concert, really cool tour in itself. And that was that was some of the shows that I got to see. But then the ultimate came. So January the 28th, 2014, Motley Crue held a press conference in Hollywood, and they announced that it was going to be their final tour, and they actually signed a contract stating that after this tour, they would never tour again. Now, as you people know, there's been so many bands, I'm not going to mention no names, but so many bands have had these, quote, farewell tours, They do the tour. They rack in the money. They take a couple, 2 or 3 years off, and now they do a reunion tour, and we're back off to the races, doing it all over again. And it's just a gimmick, you know. It's a gimmick. But Motley Crue was the first band to sign a contract and said, hey, you know, we love our fans. We're not going to tell you one thing and do something different. So they were like the first band to ever sign a contract stating that after they performed this final tour and the final show, they were done. And so, and they, of course, they announced that on this tour they would be touring with Alice Cooper because they haven't never toured with him. So they wanted to do that. And so I knew at that point, man, this is my band and this is the last tour. And I'm going to make sure I go to every show I can see in North Carolina. Now, as a kid growing up, I had this dream of going to L.A., going to Hollywood. You know, I always wanted to go to Hollywood. Didn't know nothing about it. I just knew I wanted to go to California. You know, and growing up in the night, you know, listening to rock and roll music, you know, most bands in the 80s, they were from Hollywood. You know, they played the Hollywood clubs, and that's kind of how they got started with Poison and Motley Crue. And so all I knew was, you know, these bands were like on the Sunset Strip, going to the Whiskey A Go-Go, the Troubadour, the Roxy, and I was like, man, I missed that. I didn't get to do that. You know, I'm in North Carolina and not in California. I didn't get to witness that aura. And so, but anyway, I said, well, this is Motley Crue's final tour, so I'm gonna go. So I called my best friend Alton. I'm like, dude, we gotta go to this concert. So August the 19th, 2014, Motley Crue played their first show on the final tour in North Carolina. They're in Charlotte at the PNC PNC Pavilion. So of course, Alton and I go to it. We get the lawn seats, and we're out there. We're having a time of our life, and of course, I'm thinking this is the last time I'm seeing Motley Crue, so I'm kind of taking it all in. And then they announced another show in October 22nd, 2014. They were at the Greensboro Coliseum, so of course we went to that, and that was a show that I got to actually see Tommy's drum solo with the roller coaster, which was amazing. If you didn't get to see that, you really missed out. It was such a cool experience. And I told Alton, I said, dude, we got to get the upper level seats so we can get a closer look at this roller coaster, because I'm in thought. I'm gonna see what this thing's about. And of course we saw it. It was so cool. And then now I'm thinking this is my last time seeing Motley Crue here in Greensboro. So a few months go by, and then they announced the second leg of their final tour. And so at this point, they're coming back to Charlotte, this time at the Time Warner Arena in downtown Charlotte. And that's August the 29th in 2014. Anyway, I'm sorry, 2015. So I'm like, dude, we got to go to this one. This is our last time seeing Motley Crue. We got to go. So off we go. We go to the show, and again, it's an amazing show. Alice Cooper, you know, was wonderful. Put on a really good rock and roll show, and we got to see Motley Crue, and they tore the house down. Well, then after the show, I told him, I said, dude, I remember a few years ago, brought my wife down to see a country concert, and I remember me and her went behind the Coliseum and hung out, and I actually met Jake Owen. He came out and talked to us for a little bit, and I got a pair of custom cowboy boots, and he was like marking out over my boots. He was going crazy. He said they were the coolest boots he ever saw. But what was funny was I had no clue who he was at the time, and he's talking to me like, dude, you know, it was so cool. But anyway, so I told Alton, I said, dude, we need to hang out. We need to go behind the Coliseum. Maybe we'll get to see Motley Crue. And he was like, yeah, okay, whatever. So we get back there, and like, there's literally nobody back there. So we get up to the front, and we're just hanging out there. And then all of a sudden, other people start coming. They start lining up. And God, we had to be out there for like an hour and a half, 2 hours. And we're getting ready to walk away. And I was like, all right, you know, let's go. And right before we walked away, this not tour bus, but like an RV pulls up. It's got these cool neon lights under it and everything, and out walks Vince Neil. Of course, he's on the other side of the street there, so we didn't get to talk to him, but we did get to wave to him and whatever. That was cool. And then he pulls away. And then a few minutes later, this dog comes running from inside the Coliseum and hauling butt. And people are yelling. These roadies are chasing it. We come to find out it was Tommy Lee's dog. And so Tommy's cussing out the stagehands for letting his dog escape. But what was cool was Tommy was riding on one of those hoverboards, which was kind of cool. But he didn't come up there close enough to us either. I was like, okay. Well, I got to see two members of Motley Crue kind of close, so that was cool, you know. And so now at this point, we're like, okay, we're getting ready to leave. And I had turned and was talking to a few people about the show, and all of a sudden, people are screaming, going crazy. And I turn around and look, and there's Nikki Sixx handing out guitar picks to everybody. And I was just like frozen. I'm like, oh my God, Nikki just gave me a guitar pick. Which was, so at that point I was like, I'm glad I can't, okay, if this is the last time I see Motley Crue, this is awesome because I got to, you know, high five Nikki Sixx and he gave me a guitar pick, and I still have that guitar pick to this day, and I'll probably never get rid of it. So it was really cool. And so now I'm thinking this is the last time I'm seeing Motley Crue. Well, that night, they had announced that the very last final show was going to be New Year's Eve, that year, 2015, in Los Angeles at the Staples Center. So I joked around with my friend Alton, like, dude, we got to go. And it's in L.A. I always wanted to go there. We got to do this. And so we decide, I told him, I said, well, I'm going to figure out some way to get the money to go, Now, remember, I know nothing about California. I don't know how far Hollywood is from Los Angeles. I don't know any of this stuff. But I want to learn. And so I go back and I talk to my wife, and I'm like, I really want to go see Motley Crue in California. I said, I got this idea that, we'll fly down, we'll see the show, and then fly back the next day. And she's like, why would you do that? Well, if you're going out to California, why don't you stay a few days? And that way you could take in the sights. You always wanted to go, so why don't you go? I'm like, oh, that's a good idea. So now I got the permission to go, but now I got to find the funds, right? So I'm looking on eBay, and all this Motley Crue stuff is selling for like outrageously crazy money. Well, I have this guitar pick that a customer, when I used to be a salesman, had given me. And just so happens it was Nikki Sixx's pick from the Shout at the Devil tour. God, I had that pick for like 20 years, right? So I thought, well, for giggles, I'll throw it on eBay. It probably, because I'm looking, and some of these guitar picks are selling for like $150, $200. So in my mind, I'm thinking, well, I'll probably get about $300 for this pick. So, that'll help, pay for the plane ticket or a rental car or whatever. So I threw it on eBay. It's on there for like 15 minutes, and I start getting bombarded with emails. Dude, take that off the eBay. I'll pay you $200 right now. Dude, take it off of eBay. I'll give you $100. I'll give you. So I was getting all these offers, and I'm like, no. If you guys are offering this already, and it's only been on there for 15 minutes, I should be able to make $400 is what I'm thinking, right? So I leave my pick on eBay for 7 days, and like 2 hours of it being online, my phone is going crazy. It was like I hit the jackpot. Bid after bid after bid after bid. There was like 20 different people bidding on this guitar pick. So the bids went up to like 400 and some bucks. And I was like, oh my gosh. And that was just the first day, right? So leave it on for 7 days. On the 7th day, that guitar pick sold for $717. So I said, well, there's my plane ticket. So that guitar pick paid for my plane ticket and my rental car. Boom. We're off to L.A., So we go out to L.A., and, two North Carolinian country boys that has never been to the big city, and here we are in Los Angeles. I go online, I'm start booking, I'm looking for a hotel, and in my mind I'm thinking, okay, we got to get a hotel close to the venue so we can just walk there, right? But it's like the stars lined up. Like, I found this hotel, and it was a pretty decent price, and I looked down, and it was in Hollywood. I'm like, wow, Hollywood. Well, that's where Motley Crue is from, so let's just take it, and we'll drive there. So I booked the hotel. Now comes the time to go. So off to L.A. we go. We fly out, and the first day as we flying out, we have a layover in New Jersey. Well, the day we're in Charlotte, I keep getting these updates that, your plane's being delayed, and I'm like, oh, these people are driving me crazy. So I walk up to the customer service desk, and I'm like, hey, listen, we have a connecting flight in New Jersey. I just got an email telling me that my flight here in Charlotte has been delayed. So if it's delayed, then I'm going to miss my connecting flight in New Jersey. So I need you to put me on a different plane. And she's like, okay, yeah, we'll do that. So she takes us off the plane. And then she calls me back up there and says, okay, I got you on another plane, and it's a direct flight to California. I said, oh, perfect. And I said, okay. I said, what time does that plane leave? She said, it leaves at 8:30. And I'm like, ma'am, it's 8:45. She's like, oh, no. Well, now her manager comes out screaming, yelling, and fussing at her. So she gets us back on the plane. Now my friend Alton's sitting in the back of the plane. I'm sitting at the front of the plane. So we're not sitting together. We land in New Jersey, and we miss our connecting flight, like I said we would. So long story short, because it's a very long story, we're stuck in New Jersey for 12 hours. Of course, I turned heel on the little... I call him a little Guido looking dude there at the airport that kept telling us that we were on the next flight, and we never got put on the flight. So I turned heel. I raised Cain. Security guards come. They want to know what's going on, and I tell them, I've been here for 14 hours, and they keep telling me I'm on the next flight, and then they say the next flight. So they're like, get this man on the next flight. So they do, But here's where the story gets funny, okay? So they put my friend Alton on one plane. They put me on another. His flight left an hour before mine. So his plane left at 5 p.m. Mine's leaving at 6 a.m. 5 p.m. Mine's leaving at 6 p.m. So then from there, we fly to L.A., land at the LAX airport. I told him, I said, look, well, you're going to get there before me, so make sure when you land, you got your phone on. Yeah, okay. So I land, I call him, it goes to his voicemail. I'm like, that son of a, what is he doing, I'm calling, keeps going to voicemail, And now at this point, I'm flipping out. I'm like, this dude, I don't know what's going on. I don't know if he's at the bar passed out. I don't know if his plane has crashed. I don't know if he's still in Charlotte. I don't know. All of a sudden, he calls me. Oh, there he is. Hello? He's like, dude, where you at? I'm like, oh, well, I'm here at gate whatever. And he's like, okay, I'm right next to you. And I'm like, dude, where you been? He goes, I just landed. I was like, what? He goes, yeah. Well, he goes, we sat on the runway for 45 minutes. So I left. He left before me. I got there before him. It was crazy. So anyway, now we get our rental car, and we're about 35 minutes from our hotel in Hollywood. So we drive to Hollywood, get checked in our hotel, and now this time it's 12. It's midnight in Hollywood, but it's for us it's 3 a.m. But we slept most of the time at the airport, so now I'm wide awake and I'm excited because now I'm in Hollywood. There's got to be something to do, right? Hollywood never goes to bed. So we decided to go out and try to find some food. So we're walking to the parking lot. And this guy yells for us, hey, yo, what? So I turn around, yo, what you need, man? He goes, hey, you guys looking for a date? And I look at Alton. He looks at me like, what this guy just say to us? And I said, what'd you say? And he said, you guys looking for a date? And I'm like, no, we are looking for food. And he goes on to tell us that how he's got the hottest blonde in Hollywood and blah, blah, blah. We're like, no, we're not interested, but we're going to get some food. So he walks away, and we get in the car. And I told my friend, I said, oh, my gosh. I said, if this is the beginning of our trip, we're in for a treat. Because we're in Hollywood for 15 minutes and already got hit up by a pimp, right? So anyway, we start driving, and we go a block. And I look up, and I see the street light, and it says Sunset Boulevard. And my whole body just exploded because I'm like, dude, this is a Sunset Strip. I said, I wonder if I go left or if I go right. He goes, I don't know. So I'm just going to go right. I went right. I went 2 blocks, and boom, there was the Whiskey A Go-Go. And I was like, you got to be kidding me. We pulled the car over. We jump out of the car. It's 12:30 at night. and we're just looking at it. It's like, oh my God, this is so cool. Then we get back in the car, we drive a little bit farther, and there I see the Body Shop. Now, if you've ever seen the Girls video, the Body Shop is where they filmed the part where at the end of the video when Motley Crue are sitting on their Harley Davidsons and the girls go by and Tommy goes, hey Vince, check that out, man. You know what, Vic? Well, that was filmed right there in front of the Body Shop. So I was like, this is so cool. So Motley Crue stuff is happening already, and we ain't been there but like 20 minutes. So we drive a little bit farther, and we find that the only place open was called Mel's Drive-In. So we go in there and we eat. Now, you got to remember, guys, I knew nothing about California. I'm just in the car, just driving, looking to see what I can see. And so we go into Mills Diner. We have, we get a burger and fries. It's like 3 o'clock. It's like, 3 o'clock our time in North Carolina, but it's midnight there. And we're having this big greasy hamburger with fries and a Coke. Now I'm jacked up, wide awake, ready to go. So we get in the car. I said, let's just keep driving, see what else we see. We drive like another half a mile, and then we see the sign, Welcome to Beverly Hills. I looked at him and I said, dude, this is awesome. I didn't realize Beverly Hills was so close to Hollywood. And, I didn't know any of that stuff at that time. So we're just going crazy. We turn around, we come back down Sunset Boulevard, and then we're driving, and then we see Sunset Strip Tattoo. We're like, oh, that's where Motley Crue got their tattoos. So we're just going crazy, right? So then we end up going back to our hotel, going to sleep. Now, he gets mad at me because, we go to bed at 2 in the morning. I'm up at 7. Let's go get breakfast. Let's go hit the streets of Hollywood, see what we can see, what we can find, all that kind of cool stuff. And so we end up doing one of those little Hollywood gimmick tours where they take you around and show you all the quote stars' homes. So on this tour, the next day they take us up to and again, remember, I didn't know all this stuff about Hollywood. I'm learning all this stuff. So we're on this tour, and they take us up to Mulholland Drive. And again, going back to one of the Motley Crue videos, I remember hearing Nicky talk about, he was sitting on Mulholland Drive, and that takes you up to the Hollywood Hills, which is where all the movie stars and rock stars live, right? So we're driving around, and we're seeing all this stuff. Well, we're in one of these open buses where they cut the top off, and so you're just riding around. They're showing you everything so you can take pictures. They pull over. We get to walk up and take a picture on the Hollywood sign. So we can see the Hollywood sign and see the skyline of Los Angeles, which was breathtaking in itself. And I'm just like, a kid in a candy store. We get back in the van and we start driving, and our tour guide's telling us, here's the house of Michael Jackson. So we're taking pictures of that. And then she takes us around this curve, and she says, okay, the next street that we're going to turn up, this gentleman has a party every Friday night, and blah, blah, blah. And this is the Playboy Mansion. And I'm like, oh my God, this is so cool. And as I look up, I see these two girls jogging down the street. And of course, they don't look like they need to be jogging, because they're in great shape. And in my mind, I'm thinking, I said, I wonder if that's Playboy bunnies, just laughing about it, right? Well, then our tour guide, she's got the microphone, and she's like, well, hello, bunnies. And the girls cover their faces. And I'm like, what? I'm tripping, right? Because how often is it two North Carolina boys are on the same street as two, Playboy bunnies? And literally they jog right past me. I took their picture. Of course, they got their faces covered, but I'm like, you know what? I don't know who they are, but at least I can say, hey, that's Playboy bunnies. And I immediately checked myself into the Playboy Mansion on Facebook, which was kind of funny too. But so we did that. That was really cool. And then that night we done another tour. This time we done the TMZ tour. And on that tour, we're riding around the streets of Hollywood, and you gotta think about it. When you're in North Carolina, you might see, a sports star, you might see a pro wrestler, you might see a NASCAR driver, out having dinner or whatever. But you don't think about seeing a movie star, that never crosses your mind. So we're on this tour, and the lady tells us, our guide, it's very interactive. They talk to everybody, but they really talk to me because I guess because of my North Carolina accent. I don't know. From what I understand, California women love that southern drawl or whatever. But anyway, so our tour guide, she's hammering us and she's picking on me and my friend. And but they tell us, they said, if you see anybody famous who yell, if we can get them to come over and talk, we'll definitely, the person that sees them will be the first person to get their picture with them, whatever. So as we're driving, I look over at this restaurant and I'm like, that guy looks familiar. And I look, and it was Johnny Depp walking into a restaurant. Of course, the rules are, I guess, if they're on a sidewalk or walking into an establishment, you're not allowed to go over there and bum rush them. But that was cool. So I saw Johnny Depp on that tour. So we do a little tour. We go through. They take you like through Beverly Hills and back through Hollywood and West Hollywood, and they show you all the hot spots where all the stars hang out, which is it's kind of cool. Then after that we just like walked, like the next day we just walked up and down Hollywood Boulevard and just kind of took in the sights there and the gift stores and all the craziness that's there on Hollywood Boulevard, which was really cool, and I really enjoyed it. But the main reason for us to go out there was of course to see the very last final Motley Crue show, and that was like the highlight of the tour of our trip. We go to Staples Center and it's huge. Well, I'd been reading online that Jeff Tremaine, which was the producer or the director for the TV show Jackass, which used to be one of my favorite shows growing up, he was there, with his crew, and they were going to be there filming for a Motley Crue DVD or a movie. Well, we're standing outside the Staples Center just hanging out, and there's probably 1,000 people out there waiting to get in the door. And I just kind of look over my shoulder, and there's Jeff Tremaine with this camera guy walking right past me. And I was like, it just came out. I was like, Jeff, what's up, dude? And he's like, what's up, dude? And like he knew me. And like this lady next to me was like, who is that? I'm like, oh, that's Jeff Tremaine, the guy from Jackass. She's like, oh, he knows who you are? And I'm like, no. She was like, well, the way he said, what's up, dude? It was like he knew you. I was like, yeah, I know, right? And I look back now, that day, I wish that I would have ran over there and like struck up a conversation with him. But I didn't want to lose my place in line, to go in and see Motley Crue. Even though I could have got in the door, I had my tickets already, whatever. But that's probably my one regret from my LA trip. I wish I had went over there and struck up a conversation with him, because he was over there, just like an everyday guy. Like he blended right in with the crowd. I just happened to look up and notice him, which was really cool. But then we get in and we see the concert, and I've seen Motley Crue in Greensboro and Charlotte and Winston-Salem and places like that. But let me tell you something. Seeing Motley Crue in their hometown of Los Angeles, it was an amazing experience, because it was like going and seeing Ric Flair wrestle in Charlotte, hometown boy. And but man, when Motley Crue came out, the roof of the Staples Center exploded. It was sold out. There wasn't an empty seat anywhere to be found. And they played New Year's Eve, so the show didn't start till like 10 o'clock. And the show went all the way up to like almost 2 a.m. What an amazing show. Alice Cooper didn't play on the very last show. They had a band called the Struts, and they were really good. I really enjoyed them. But getting there and seeing Motley Crue play that last tour or the last show in LA was just like, man, like I took it all in. I just sat there and watched, and then whenever Motley Crue came out and like they just tore the house down. They had like Nicky had his flamethrower bass, and Tommy had his roller coaster. And the cool thing was the roller coaster got stuck. And I remember Tommy going, man, it's New Year's Eve. The roller coaster's already partying, So he took he took something bad that could have happened, and he turned it into like a joke. And me, I'd have been terrified up there hanging upside down with my drum set stuck. But all in all, it was great. And, being able to see them, not many people can say they got to see their favorite band play their very last concert. And it was amazing. And then they had like a little smaller stage that when they come out and they started playing the Home Sweet Home, it was just an amazing experience. Like they had this little small stage, and they was all real close together. But there'll never ever be another band, I don't think, with the things, the lifestyle that Motley Crue lived. I mean, it was like 4 different guys, had 4 different issues, but when they were together, man, they were the best band live. Motley Crue was awesome. So if you never got a chance to see Motley Crue, you really missed out. But definitely I would suggest getting on YouTube, watching some Crue videos. I'm telling you, man, Motley Crue is the best band. And I know right now they got a movie out on Netflix. I highly recommend watching it, The Dirt. It's just an amazing show. They're an amazing band. They were the soundtrack to my life. They were my idols, and growing up, and Motley Crue and Ric Flair, man, that. Without them, I don't know where I'd be, because that was they were the ones that got me through life. But I appreciate everyone listening to my podcast. Make sure you tune in each week. We'll be back talking about some wrestling next week. There will be I will have another guest coming up this week, and thank you for your support, and rock on, Crewheads.